All right, so good day, everyone, and welcome to the May 2021 edition of DIGFM. Nice to see some new and familiar friends and faces tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I am Steve Romig. I am celebrating my 19th year anniversary at Claris this week. And I am the Education Content Manager and member of the community team at Claris, as well as the host of the DIGFM meetings for, I think, the last couple of years. So welcome, everyone. I only have one piece of housekeeping before we get to it, and that is for the courtesy of those who are speaking, we recommend that you put yourself on mute. Now, a special WebEx tip from me to you, but let's be honest, over the last year, we probably know this tip already. If you're on mute and you want to say something, you can just simply hold down the space bar on your keyboard to unmute yourself. You can ask your question, say your comment, whatever. And then when you let go of the space bar, just like magic, you're back on mute. Anyway, okay, so let's go on to the main event. So I'm going to try to be a little clever here. Let's say get on your boxing gloves and let's get into the FileMaker ring, or maybe it's more like a wrestling battle royal. I don't know. I'm going to let the presenters fill you in on all the details. So without further ado, dare I say, let's get ready to rumble with tonight's festivities. Take it away, guys.
You need a microphone that comes down from the ceiling. Let's get ready to rumble. Yeah, Eric, intros. Hey, it's Matt Petrowski.
That's right.
Hey, Matt.
How's it going, guys?
Nice to see you.
Eric, you want to start with the intros and then I'll...
Oh, well, this is Matt Navarre. We invited him over to do a game show for us. This is what we call the FileMaker feature fight. This is the part 2, actually. We had part 1 yesterday morning, and on various topics. We're going to cover some of those same topics today and some brand new ones as well. So we have an app that Matt will share every once in a while to show you the current score, but you can actually bring that up and do your voting there. We'll post that in the chat as well so that you can connect to that if you haven't already. All right, Matt Navarre, welcome.
Thanks. So this is a slightly different event, maybe a very different event than we usually do. I put on my game show jacket, bright blue. Hard to see because the light's weird in here. And so, yeah, we've got some different topics that we sort of selected and to pit against each other. Basically 2 really good ways to do a given thing in FileMaker. And we're going to pick champions from among the speakers. And if I ask for someone to volunteer and you don't, and I know you, I'm going to just call your name, Louis. And then you'll have to pick a topic, or you'll have to defend whatever side I say. So that's what the rules are. But it's all in fun. And I actually learned some things and changed my mind on things last night. So that's really what we're hoping for, is that people can, kind of really nerd out. So with each topic, we'll have some discussion between 5 and 10 minutes or something like that per topic. Yesterday, Matt Petrowski and I kind of also kind of debated it because we are very used to insulting each other on the podcast. Let's see. And the other thing I think I'd say is the interesting thing about this meetup is we invited people from 5 different meetups all to join these 2. So there's people not just from DIGFM and not just from the Portland FileMaker group, but from other groups all across the country. Thinking that this was an experiment and try to get these meetups to target between 50 and 100 people each time. And we had 70 people at the peak yesterday, and we have 40 right now, and it kept growing as we kind of went on yesterday. So we'll see what we end up with today. With that, let's start with the first topic. Eric, why don't you share your screen again? And just as a test, let's everyone just vote on green versus blue. John Howell has agreed to make a case for why green is the best color, and Jeff Huff has agreed on why blue is the best color. Actually, neither one of them agreed to that, but I just called their names out. So you guys briefly make a case for your color, and then everyone will vote so we can see how that works.
Jeff, you want to go first?
No, I'll let age go before beauty.
Ooh, green, color of prosperity and springtime, which it is here in California. And the reason I moved from Southern California, because we have trees here and green
Wait.
stuff.
Hold on, you
And
moved to
it's an
California
easy-
for the green?
Yeah, Northern California. I'm in Sacramento,
okay.
in the
Oh, that's
Sierras.
Wait, Sacramento for the green? Sorry, I
Foothills,
can't
Auburn.
stop.
Yeah, couldn't resist, right?
It's a different shade.
It's all
Green
real.
is actually green is a shade of blue, right? But it's easier on the eye, and it indicates progress, ready to go, readiness. There's no doubt blue can be a little ambiguous about, does that mean we're ready to go, or is that just a highlight? So
Just may I interject? You lie because you don't live in Sacramento. You live in Auburn. Auburn
Auburn.
is so different from Sacramento
It's very
as
green.
night and day.
It's actually more green too.
you're
Yeah.
going to make me change my background color again. Okay, great.
That's pretty solid. Jeff, why don't you rebut and go for blue?
Well, can't have green without blue.
Right.
Oh, that may be enough said right there. Okay, so everyone can vote and pick the color they like by clicking the vote button in the middle of that first column. And then you can choose high, mid, meh, mid or high on basically the colors you want, and that casts your vote. And it just gives you a beep to tell you that your vote has been cast. The score is currently 26 for green and 62 for blue. So Jeff, I think your argument was more persuasive about,
I voted for blue too.
Let's go on to the first actual technical topic.
There is something wrong with your count here, because I show that currently the count is 14 to 71, and if you click on the tally, many of us have voted 4 times.
So you cannot vote more than once if you, there's points. If you click on the refresh button in the top right,
Okay.
the way that votes are cast in order to have the point system is if you get each vote is 4 points. And if you vote for one extreme or the other, you're putting all of your 4 points on that side.
Gotcha.
If you vote on one of the mid ones, your votes are split 3 and 1, 3 for one side, 1 for the opposite. And the meh is a no vote. But it's 2 and 2, so at least it counts. So we can see the total amount of interest of people who actually did vote versus taking a pass, Louis. Okay, so built-in themes versus custom themes. Did someone in this call suggest this topic? Because I wasn't quite sure exactly what it meant. Who has an idea of exactly what this means? Does it mean like use a built-in theme and don't modify it, or any ideas? Otherwise, I'm just going to make an assumption. Okay, I'm going to define this category as being use a built-in theme. And for the first time in history, we actually have one that is good enough to use without changing it. And the second side is a custom theme, which you either start from scratch. Matt Petrowski, I'm totally going to assign you to custom theme because I know you're all about that.
I don't need a custom theme now. I created the one for Claris, so it's
You
got all the
did?
transparents.
So you actually made which one did you make?
Apex Blue.
You made Apex Blue? I did not know that. And I just said that it was for the first time in history, it's one you can actually use without changing. So good job. I do really like it. I'm using it for all my stuff now.
Yeah, it's got all those transparents, which is nice, huh?
Yeah, I definitely really like that. A lot of the things can work on many different methods. So I'm still assigning you a custom theme. So you're going to have to argue against yourself. So a built-in theme would be like using Apex Blue without changing it at all. And Darren Southern, you're in charge of that one. So Darren, make your case. Why is using a theme better without changing it?
First, to give the hat off to Matt, why would you go and build your own theme when an expert like Matt has built Apex Blue? I think that's the whole argument, isn't it, Matt?
There's still some things that could be added to that.
Blue.
Such as?
Oh, well, I mean, some of the buttons, when you initially draw a button, it doesn't have a full suite. It's like it's a starting point. So it's sort of like you want to start. The reason I would opt to do a custom theme is having to do the opposite. Is if you start with a theme and it has more than you need, you have to then rip out what you don't need. But if you start with a custom theme and it's just like a blank one, like the minimalist, you get to add as you go along, and so you don't carry along cruft when you've got a custom theme. You just have to make sure that the custom theme or the theme that you're going to start with has at least minimally what you want to use, and that's what I think Apex Blue gives people. But I would still have stuff I'd need to rip out.
So what I'm looking for is an argument against even starting with a built-in theme, just like starting from scratch or getting somebody else's rather than any of the built-in themes.
That's just insane. Would anybody? I mean, I said it's insane, but who actually
have
does
anything?
That? It's true. Like, who would start with minimalist or the absolute minimum theme and build up, as opposed to starting from one that exists?
Ooh, there we go. I want those
See, now this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the position that should have been custom theme.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you have to start with nothing, and then the cool thing is you can steal from other themes and just put that into the theme, and then just save as new style.
So
take what you want and build off of nothing instead of having too much.
Yeah.
I saw Chris and Louis raise their hands. I want to hear why they start from nothing or minimal.
And Vince too.
Yeah.
You're saying that nothing is equivalent to like minimalist. That's what you would consider as nothing as you can get.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, it's for the reason that Matt mentioned, particularly when you start to render things in WebDirect, right? If you choose the minimal theme and then add only what you need, it's way more efficient than if you were to add a theme. It gets created for the CSS and then not rendered in WebDirect. Efficiency.
That really applies to tab panels. If you've got a lot of tab panels, especially tab panels within tab panels, you know how many CSS wrapper or how many HTML wrappers they have around those? I think one tab panel is something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 7 or 8 HTML wrappers around that, all with really extensive CSS.
You would know.
Yeah. And
who are the other people who raised hands? Chris and Vince?
Yeah,
and
I just don't like carrying the extra cruft around, and I feel like sometimes I maybe forget something that's a style on like a button bar that's buried deep in the styles, and this way I know what it's set as, and I don't miss anything because I've explicitly defined it myself.
Who I guess all of us in this room probably develop many solutions, and some of us work at companies with lots of people. Who uses a set of theme or like a standard theme for your company on all the projects for clients that you can? Obviously, sometimes you can't. Like a show of hands on that one?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people.
We do.
We kind of do, yeah.
So,
and I have another question for Matt.
Petrosky?
Yeah, Matt Petrosky. Did they? So you delivered this theme to Claris. Did they leave it untouched, or did they change it in some ways?
No, they modified it. It was a combination. All the add-ons were being done. I think it's well known. I'm not giving out any private information. Todd worked on the add-ons, the JavaScript. So he was doing those at the same time I was helping out with doing the theming. And so they from what they ended up with, they changed a little bit, but not much.
Okay. They didn't remove any of the styles that you put in there then?
No, the few things I think they technically changed because they needed to, like standard fields, I like to vertically center those so that they're not up on top, but they had a very good point that when a user selects into a field, if that field has enough text that it's going to extend beyond, they want that to be solid. So like they wanted that to be solid and have it start at the top, whereas I choose to have it in the middle because most of the height of my fields usually don't allow users to put a lot of text that'll wrap. But I saw their point for doing that.
Good info. Thank you.
That's a call for having two styles.
Let's call for a vote on this one.
Yeah.
single line and the
Was
multi-line
a little
styles.
less clear.
I did a refresh. I get 7 to 13. Is that right? Oh, 11 to 37.
I need to get in this database again.
Try again.
From yesterday. Sorry. You were there yesterday, John.
Yeah.
Custom themes are winning big time.
I wish it would let me change the spelling of my name. I typed it too fast and misspelled
There's a
it.
change name there. Yeah, that should work.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's a button up at the top, change name.
Yeah, but wouldn't it just add another one?
No, it's using a device ID
Oh,
for your.
okay.
Well, I like the hat tip to Monty Python on the question. Very nice.
Shall we go on?
Well, the biggest problem I've got with the theme
Works.
thing has nothing to do with FileMaker. It has to do with the naming conventions. And I don't like having to click on 27 things to figure out what they're doing. The names I use are functional based on attributes of the style, not some arbitrary name that, heading 12.
I'm the same way. I always name my styles with like, it would be something like 14 point, label left or something.
Yep.
So I can see for sizes. Because depending upon if you're developing what you're developing for, if you're developing for Go, obviously, versus Mac or PC, you're going to use very different font sizes.
Coming from the desktop publishing world, the fact that they don't cascade fully is really frustrating.
Absolutely agree, Jonathan. One of the things that we talked about when the styles first came out, that they would be more like, say, Quark Express or old as PageMaker, where you can set a master style and then say, okay, I want to make another style, and the only change is bold. But if I change the primary one, then it flows through to the cascading style for the other element.
It's the way HTML styles work too.
Yeah, and there's also a function of if you base something on default and then create a style from that, it does cascade through, but it's not very clear on how it works.
Yes,
Everything hinges off of defaults.
What's that, Matt?
Everything hinges off of defaults. Once default gets something, any children based off of that, you can't go backwards. So like once you apply something to default that you don't want on a child, you've messed up. I made a video a while ago that said it promoted don't use the defaults. Anything you're going to start with, it should be a style that you created off of the default, because you can always go to the default and change something that pre-exists, like the font that you want, and then that will cascade to all children of that default.
Of course, there's defaults for each individual style. You got to do a default for like the label, for the field, for the button bar, So if you want to change the font itself, you have to do edit in a lot of places. Not a ton, but several.
To say nothing is how clunky the style editor is.
Heck, I just open up a dialog box so we could type CSS directly in it. That would be novel.
That would be cool.
I mean, it could be like advanced down at the bottom. They could still keep it hidden, but
there's been a steady trend of getting more rope with which to hang ourselves. As the development environment gets more powerful, and that would be a really good example of that. So the next topic is sort records versus sort records by field. This one was kind of an interesting one yesterday. Tony White has volunteered to take on the losing side, which is sort records by field. I'm making a joke, of course. And who wants to take on sort records? Barbara. It's a good one. This is going to be it's a slam dunk. What's Tony White know? Nothing.
I'll do both if you want, but
that's a great approach. Let's do that. You can do both sides.
All right, and I'll
first define them.
What is sort myself as I go? So sort records by field is new as of FileMaker 12, so everyone should be running that or higher. And the other one, I gotta look it up. Sort records, that's been around since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's clear. We got a super talented bunch here. So and it's also documented, so look it up. So I'm gonna start with sort records by field. One nice advantage is that it's very visible. You get code visibility. So sort field, if you look at it, you're like, oh, I wonder what this is doing. You have to drill down to look at it. Whereas sort by field, it's right there in front of you. So that's an advantage. I'm going to go from simple to complex here. The disadvantage of sort records, on the other hand, sort records by field, you can only sort one field at a time. So that's a win for the sort records. But then again, sort records by field is perfect for primary keys and sort orders, anything that's going to be unique. You only need one line. It's perfect because it's visible. Then I'll go for this one. All right, let's go to the other guys. The sort records has a keep records sorted option. So you've got a choice whether you keep records sorted or not. On the other hand, sort records by field does not have that option. I just verified that it will always keep records sorted. So you get a little bit less choice. But I'm really here to support the sort records by field. And here's the devastating, somewhat complicated reason why it's more awesome than sort records, which is it gives you the ability to sort by the field that you're in. And someone did a blog post on Community where they built and distributed for free a utility, which is entirely, all the work is done in the layout space against a black box script. And to me, this is huge. In other words, I can go to a layout with 10 fields I want to sort by. They got to be local, otherwise a little gotcha. And that's covered in the community post. But I can go to the, and all I have to do is a button. So I'm touching a button in layout mode, and I'm touching a field and giving it an object name. And I feed it in the black box script, so I can actually add sorting capability without touching a script. So just working in one zone to me is a huge advantage. So therefore,
Tony, that's a not a well-known fact, and it's a pretty cool trick.
Thank you, Mike Ross. Anyway, so it's clear, sort records by field, but the other's nice too.
The other one that's been around unchanged since the beginning of the time, it's okay. It's funny when I teach FileMaker classes and talk about features that have been there since the beginning. It's like, they got this right, so they haven't really needed to change it, you know, like
when I will say one more point, since Steve was saying our friends at Claris is A, terrific, best platform on the planet, and B, if you want to give a get sort stack, we will take it. It was mentioned the other day, very popular feature. If you want to throw in another get function, if it's easy. I asked Monkey Bread guy, he said he couldn't do it. So it's up to you over at Claris. Give us get by sort stack. That would mean a big, that would help a lot.
Tony, you're winning against yourself.
Okay, good.
So remember, everybody remembers the old method of doing sorts in the FileMaker 4 days, where you had perform the sort and then you put the script in and it would remember.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, same thing with finds.
It still works the same way.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, and export also, and import. If you just run one of those commands and then you make a script. And what? Yeah, but no one would actually use perform find and store it. I mean, you would only
but what I'm saying is you perform a find and you go to script and it's like, hey, what's that there? I just did that.
I know, but what I'm saying is I'm making a joke a little bit, but there's definitely a lot of seriousness to this particular joke, Vince, which is who would ever use a perform find command and have the stuff stored in it when that feature is so profoundly broken, I guess is what I'm saying. And the only logical, rational way to do it is to enter find mode, set field, perform find, and have the perform find not have anything stored, because you'd clearly be insane.
How is it broken, Matt? It's just not. It's
leading into our next topic.
It makes it difficult to read, but
how
is it broken?
It is. No. It's actually broken. It doesn't. There's certain searches that it does not do correctly, and there's a whole bunch of features that you simply can't do by using a stored, like a perform find command with stored finds in it.
Oh, okay.
And it's also really hard to debug.
Well, yeah, that's why I don't
So
ever
if you
use
if you
it,
script it with
but
a perform find command, oh look, we're going to get like actually one of the things I was asked to do, encourage people to do, is to share screen all the time and show things. Tony, I think when you were showing the last time, whoever was sharing, it didn't actually bring any of the FileMaker dialogues in front. So all we really see is the layout, not. Are you opening up the script stack right now?
I don't think I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, you're showing the screen, but I think you're just sharing. Like if,
I'm
if
sharing
you've
my
got a
screen.
script,
Eric
if you've got
is
the
sharing
script
his.
workspace up, no, we don't see it.
Yeah, I think Eric is sharing his screen.
Eric, did you have script workspace up? You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm back. Let me share screen again.
Yeah, but if you what I was saying is in WebEx, if you share a screen, it does not show the FileMaker dialogues that pop up in front of the layout. So like if you open script workspace, it doesn't actually come up. Except now it does.
I'm sharing the whole screen instead of just one
Yep.
application. I don't know if that makes
That's
a
how you
difference
do
in
it. Yeah.
WebEx. But I have a huge monitor, so it's probably really small on your screens.
It's not too bad.
Zoom works the same way. If you share just a window, it won't show you anything else.
I don't know how to share just a window in WebEx though.
Yeah, like the FileMaker window. Zoom has a feature that's pretty great. You can actually share a small, like a box on your screen.
Yeah.
And then anything that you drag into that box, whatever application it's on, will be shared. That's my default method when I teach classes.
Can I say something about the sort thing, Matt?
Say something about what?
The sort.
Yes, please.
So the reason I didn't want to participate in the sort match is because I hate how sort is implemented in FileMaker. And I just didn't want to start venting.
You can vent. There's nobody from Claris on this call.
I want field aliases so that I can actually show that dialogue to a client
Yes.
and not have to script the whole thing. And I'll just say that.
It's a sorted affair.
Oh, that's a groaner. Good job, Mike.
Where's my rim shot?
Yeah, I know. Psst, Matt, you have the sounds. Matt Petrowski.
Oh,
He has all the cool sound effects in the podcast stack.
Let me load it.
Let's go on to.
Sorry, all I've got is a cell phone ring.
Oh, no worries. Let's hear it though. Hello. Perform Fine versus Go To Related Record. Jerry Robin, I believe you volunteered to champion the side of Go To Related Record.
That is correct.
Do we have a volunteer to champion the side of Perform Find? Or shall I pick someone?
Surely no one's afraid to go against me because.
I'll take you on. It's on.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right, who's going first?
You.
Me?
Yeah, because that way I'll win.
Oh, this is like the coin toss. Everybody wants to receive. Okay, fine.
Wait, let me just go and do a little bit of scripting in the voting application here.
Let's see. So
if
far,
question equals perform find, set score.
So far it's what 11-9. So it's pretty close with the pre-votes. So it's practically a tie. It's like as close as the election in Arizona, pretty much. And by the way, I know people who can do a recount after this. They're only a few miles away from me. So, all right. So you want me to talk about why I prefer Go To Related Records to Perform Find.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So this is gonna be tough to do. So first of all, I mean, I've been a.
You only get 30 seconds.
What's that?
You only get 30 seconds, and you use 18 of them.
I know, that's what I figure. I mean, I've been a FileMaker developer for 30 years. I've presented hundreds of sessions to thousands of developers. I've done sessions that have been
Jerry,
2 hours long, 8 days long. I cannot make a point in a few minutes. I can make a point in 5 hours, no problem. Okay, but it's just like dog frisbee. There's no prize money, so I don't care.
Jerry, please.
Okay. Jeez, Tony White got more than 30 seconds. Okay, so first of all, I want to point out one thing that's been driving me crazy for decades. It is Go To Related Record, singular, and you didn't make this mistake, but a lot of people say go to related records. I've literally even seen that in the FileMaker proficiency exam. They have used the expression go to related records.
You are really not helping your case. You haven't made anything, given any argument. In fact, you know what? I'm going to cut you off now.
Jesus
Here's why
Christ, Matt.
find is superior.
I'm doing some setup. Shut up, Matt. I'm talking here. Okay, so go to related record in some ways is much more versatile. For one thing, you can do the whole thing in one step, right? You don't have to go to a layout, set up your find in advance, perform the find, possibly go into find mode depending on how you're doing it. So one step does the whole thing. Another thing is when you do a find, perform find always changes the found set. I mean, unless of course you're finding the same records that are already there. But basically, fundamentally, its purpose is to change the current found set. Whereas go to related record, literally, its purpose is to go to a related record. And secondarily, one of the options is to show only related records, in which case you may or may not change the found set depending on the current found set. So you have the benefit of not only do you find a set of records, which is the secondary thing, but the primary thing is you land on a specific related record, which is the first related record related to whatever the relationship is. So you can even use it just to go to a specific record without even changing the found set, just to get to a record the way you could do 30 years ago in Microsoft Works. You could just go to a record without having to change the find. So that's a benefit. You don't have to switch into find mode. So when you're choosing a target, like if you go into find mode and you're going to another layout, you've got to either go into find mode first and then switch layouts, or you've got to switch layouts and then go into find mode. And sometimes that can cause some confusion. So go to related record, that doesn't happen. It automatically, it just gets you there without you having to worry about ever going to find mode, either before, wherever it is in the process. You can conveniently use a return separated list as your key, so that you don't have to, if you've got, you could find a random set of 73 customers from some, complicated, now to be fair, you would perform a find to do this part, to actually find a set of interesting set of records. But once you've done that, if you now want to find, say, all the invoices for those customers, you can simply collect use the list summary function to grab the list of all the records, customer records you found, and then in a single step, go and find all the invoices for that complex set of customers that might be very difficult to find from the invoice side. That's it. I'm done.
Or execute SQL.
I will give you, the execute SQL, that's a different topic. I think we did that
But
one
you
last
could use
night.
execute SQL to make that list, is my point.
Yeah, we have execute SQL coming up later today, in an hour or two.
Right, that's my favorite way
So
of
I will
making
give
a
you
list.
two features for go to related records that I like. And
Did you
I
say
think
go to
they're
related records?
special case things.
With an S?
Yes, I did. Fight me.
Jeez.
One of them
Certainly
is
did.
one of them is directly related to what you're talking about, which is the extra checkbox that goes to the whole set. Actually, I don't know if you mentioned that one or not, but it's a key thing. So if you've got like 10 customers and you want to go to all the line items of all the invoices for all those customers,
right?
It's a very efficient way to do it, much more so than looping through the records and grabbing keys and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Good point.
The other thing that I like about go to related records is that it's one step. You can script with one simple thing. I'm a game show host. I have to be funny. I have to definitely put this on. So, here's my blues. However, there are no more 4 powerful script steps in all of FileMaker than go to layout, enter find mode, set field, perform find. And especially with emit, you get an insane amount of power with that, and flexibility and simplicity. It's vastly
I challenge that.
This is not your thing.
Set variable.
I know it is, but I'm trying to be
Live without set variable,
Matt,
then you can talk to me.
Matt, you know damn well I live in a hyperbolic chamber.
Well, actually, Matt, we were all living without set variable before it was introduced. So
That's true, but we're all not going to admit to how old we are, so please quit talking about functions from the 90s.
So we're going to
Camera
inside
thing. That finger in the
We
camera
have
thing was
memory
solid.
now. We have access to memory.
yeah, no debugger, no data viewer, those days.
And 70 files in a solution.
Oh yeah. So back to my case, and then I'll rest my case shortly. You with performing a find, it's vastly easier to troubleshoot. It's much easier to have multiple requests. So if you want to say, I want to find all the records that are active and also only have this particular customer ID, and also the invoices are current, but I want to omit the ones that are after a certain date, that's just so much easier to do. And it's going to keep your graph so much cleaner than using GoTo related records, or, the singular form. And when you add emit records to that, emit record, it's just so much more powerful, I think, and just better for general purpose use. I do use GoTo related record frequently, but my go-to is for sure perform fine. I rest my case.
Matt, I have one more, if I may.
Yes.
It's much easier to do or finds when you do finds rather than GoTo related record. Like you can create another record and also do a find, and create another record and set find, and set.
Well, you can constrain and extend. Well, that's what finds. The other thing I like about GoTo related record is that you can do multiple hops if you need to, multiple GoTo related records.
One thing you forgot, Matt, which you covered yesterday, is in later versions of FileMaker, if you have no records at the target end, the GoTo related record will fail and not even change context. So you almost, I would say universally, have to wrap GTRR with the validation that there is a found set to go to. Some kind of if logical block.
Every time.
That man props. He's the first one to drop the acronym.
What's that?
You're the first one to drop GTRR. I didn't hear that before.
There an odd error
Jerry.
that if you have, let's say you have a list and you go to related record using that list, but one of them does not have a related record, isn't an error thrown even though you did go?
That's what I just said.
So there's an error that's sort of hides in go to related record.
Hey, you can trap that right after you execute with a get error. Get left.
Hey, similar error trapping.
Matt.
Yes.
Navarre. You see the score there?
Wow, you went down in flames, Jerry.
Wait.
But you should really not have debated someone who has access to the voting backend.
Jerry, do you want to tap me in just to help you out here as someone who got handed a subject that you knew you couldn't win? Tap me in, Jerry. One point on go to related record is that Claris have optimized the join precedents for our searches so that they actually are now doing them in the order to give us best performance. Who out there's done a search where we've done a search on an unstored calc and it's just taken too long? You can't do a search on an unstored calc in a go to related record. So it's all stored, it's all optimized, and you know it's automatic. Jerry, I'm trying to help you out here. I'm throwing you a bone.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah.
Darren, do you find that when the order of the predicates has an effect in the go-to related record?
They say it's optimized. As from history, I would normally put them together so that it was my process in my head to say, right, I want to find these records, and then maybe I want to exclude those. But apparently the order of precedence is been taken over by the product itself now. So it will interrogate those join precedents and then say, well, this one's going to be the fastest. Then we're going to end up with this set, this set, this set, this set. So that's my understanding of how it has been changed recently.
That's awesome.
To end up with better records.
There was a pause. I don't even remember which one. That Clay Macca was sitting in the back of the room and confirmed that they did optimize that a number of versions ago.
Nice.
Cast your votes. We're moving on.
You want to
reset
reset the
votes at all,
counter?
Jerry?
Or,
I took out my cheater votes that I threw in there. That was
Did you?
I couldn't resist. What was that?
62 to 38. Are you kidding me? Okay. I told you. This is why I'm only doing this because there was no prize money involved.
You did better than me, Jerry.
Actually, it's $1,000 per question.
Oh, now you tell us.
Yeah, no, there's no prize money.
Or leather jacket, Jerry.
And
per vote.
I think it's actually more fun to like pick a topic that you disagree with. Like make a case for one that you don't use. You know, that's more fun, harder. So the
Questions
next
are
one.
all made up and the points don't matter.
Yes, exactly.
I know that reference.
That's whose line is it?
Whose
Anyway?
line is it anyway?
Whose line is it
Yeah.
anyway? Yeah. I used to love that show. Global variables versus global fields. So the idea here is when you're scripting, I think is this the only repeat topic? There's 2 repeat topics from last night or from yesterday morning, and this is one. So when you're scripting, do you scope a bunch of global variables or use global fields to set all the environmental aspects that you want to track in your script? So things like user ID, the dimensions of off-screen windows, fine-grained security, things like that. Do we have any? Who wants to take the sides on this one?
I'll do global fields. I'll do global fields.
I'll do global variables then.
All right, dive in.
Go ahead.
Okay, I guess we start with the left. So global variables, they're lightweight. You got to know how to use them properly. You got to know how to dispose of them, but they don't take up any schema for you. The fact that you can now use them in dialogue is very helpful. I will use global variables when I have to step into a field and capture the state of that field. And then when I drop out, I can compare the data that was then entered into that field against the global values. And so I use it a lot on object enter and on object exit. Usually a 2 script scheme, but it works very well for me. But if I can avoid using a global variable in favor of a local variable, I'll certainly do that. But I dislike seeing things, well, like in seed code where you have 100 global variables that fill up your data viewer, which can drive you crazy. So
yeah, that one came up yesterday too.
Yeah,
that's definitely a downside. Especially, it's not such a downside like if it's your solution and you're used to seeing them, but if there's multiple developers on the project, that can be really frustrating.
I guess I would rather see global fields for something like that. But to me, with global variables, you use them and toss them. Make sure that you get rid of them when you're done with whatever you're doing, so they don't clutter.
So Mike, you're saying you have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay. Just clarifying that.
Keep those quotes coming, man. I love all the various references to country singers.
Yeah, and I agree with Mike on many of his points. I think for me, the global fields, one of the nice things is I don't have to worry about in a calculation mistyping something if it's part of a calculation because the autocomplete, I can't mistype it. I think that's one of the biggest things. I like the ability that a global field has to automatically refresh, whether it's a show hide calc or a conditional formatting that'll automatically refresh when a global field is set, it won't when a global variable is set. Obviously, the ability that the field has to drive relationships, I think, was mentioned like yesterday on it, but I think that's a huge key to it if you ever need it for relationship purposes or anything like that.
One thing that saves my rear end, as I've gotten older, my typing has gotten worse. The monkey bread script, the plugin, the free part, will flag misspelled variables, whether they're local. It'll find the local variables. I don't think it'll flag the global variables, but that's a nice trick to be able to see that your variable is undefined in your script when you look up and oh yeah, I misspelled that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I like for debugging with our clients, we have a script that they can just run at any point. When they're creating like a support ticket, it automatically runs and it gathers using the execute SQL feature to find all the globals in the system, all the global fields, and then their values and stores it in the support ticket. So when we're trying to debug stuff, it's very valuable with that, especially if it's nothing showing up in the portal and you realize that global field was involved with the relationship or something like that. And the nice thing about that is that you're not scripting it. When you add a new global field to your schema, it just automatically gets it when you're gathering up with the execute SQL. And then the one that was brought up yesterday, I never really thought about it, is the fact that the global fields will work across a multi-file solution. I think that's actually a nice part of it too.
That's a pretty big advantage. Solid.
There's one more thing that a global field has. You can control it with a FileMaker security.
Yeah.
So you can actually lock it and you can prevent any edits to it. Obviously, someone would have to have access to the data viewer to flip a bit inside of on a global variable, but you can't do it with global field.
And another nice thing about a global field, even though I'm arguing the other opposite side, is the fact that you can get to that global field from another table without a relationship.
Let's. Any other comments on this one?
Happy anniversary, Jeff.
Well, if you happen to be naming your stuff right from the get-go, you're not going to have to rename anything. But if you have to rename something, then renaming a global field would require you less effort than having to rename a global variable everywhere you use it.
Yep, SQL, yes. But you wouldn't really use execute SQL on a global field, probably. But you could. That's a good point.
One really cool trick with global fields too is you can run if you need to composite some data, you can run a replace all records against a global and just it will reference all of the fields. So if you need to build a quick list into a global, use replace all records into a global of external fields. Pretty cool.
In the chat, we've got global fields can store and display formatted text, and Vince is saying, including emojis. So that's pretty cool for layout dialogues, or I guess card windows and stuff like that.
I think yesterday Alan shared that global fields can trigger record lock, but I'm not so sure that it is the case. Can someone confirm on that?
I think it has to do with whether you're dealing with a table that's 100% global fields. We have bumped into that. I think a table that's 100% globals is safe, but as soon as you introduce one non-global field, you can produce record locks. But then again, I'm not sure about that either. That's what I'm seeing, though.
Yeah, Tony, I think I just ran into that the other day where I had a table that was effectively all globals, but apparently not actually all globals. And me and another developer were working on it. And all of a sudden, one of us got a record lock, and we realized that one of us had clicked into the one non-global field in the layout or something like that. So, yeah. So it is that sounds about right.
Yeah, I didn't find actual. Sorry, I didn't find actual record lock, but I found a lot of latency. That if a number of users were on the one record editing their own globals, any data that may be coming from other areas, we had 5 people using the system all at once, and if any sort of data was introduced from another table, they'd all put their hands up, say, hang on, who touched the system? And it was like normal without that happening. It was bang, 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 bang. When people started working with the globals in the one record, then they would get a lot of latency. It was almost like things were being queued up. That may have been FileMaker 12 days, but that's what we found. It was almost like everyone was doing a unstored search all at once. So we moved to a model where we had a user record without the globals, and everyone was happy.
Somebody mentioned earlier about the field names not changing in execute SQL. Did that get discussed much? The point is you wrap your field names in a custom function so that when you change the name, it changes into execute SQL. Does anybody do that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We do it for sure. I've always had a question whether there's a performance impact on doing it. It certainly protects from breaking. I wonder if it has a performance impact. I don't know.
Darren, that performance issue you mentioned, have you ever tried working with global fields in a table with no records? Because you can work with globals with no records at all.
Because your global fields are record 0. I'm not sure if you can get related data from a global field
Right, you wouldn't be able
without
to
a
get
record in
related
that
data.
table.
Yeah.
That was the downfall, and we were pulling in a lot of related data into that one context.
I got a question. Someone put in the chat, if an AutoCalc depends on a global, it can open the record. Which record does it open? Obviously, does it open all the records or just that particular record that you entered a global in? Anyone have any idea what that is referencing?
That's a good question.
Is that a question or a statement?
Yeah, I'm asking, someone put it in the chat. I'm just curious
It
what
looks like
that.
a statement. If an AutoCalc depends upon a global, it can open the record.
If you have an AutoCal that's not global, that's depending on a global, that's a very weak structure.
Yeah, Yuli, you posted that. Do you want to comment on it?
Okay. So yeah, I had that once and I thought it's a bug in FileMaker because I changed a global and it actually opened the record I was on. Not the, I mean, if you're only on one record, it cannot open anything else. I didn't try it actually if I had a portal with related records with dependencies on that global change. So what happened, I only saw that the parent record, which was the same base table the global was hosted or like was defined in, that this had changed. So it opened my record and it took me a while to find out that it's not a FileMaker bug, that I am the one who caused it. So I had like a automatically, you know, recalculating the AutoCalc when that global field from the same table changed. But that goes back to FileMaker. That was in FileMaker.fp7. I didn't test it if that would be still the case, but it makes sense actually, because if you, as far as I know, I mean, I totally understand how it works now, or how it makes sense that it does it. Maybe it's bad design. I'm sure it was, because it cost me some headache. But that's all I can remember right now.
I don't think it's fair to say that a global field is actually in record zero. I don't think that's a true concept. I think it's a part concept, because like we just discussed, if you've got record zero, then you have to have, I'm going to call it a parent record, at least one, to be able to find data from other areas. So if it is record zero and there's nothing to do with the other records, then there is a connection between the two. And to get your head around that concept of record zero, when there are exceptions, I know that's where we live in the FileMaker world. There are exceptions to some of the rules, but yeah, it's a tough concept to get around.
There is one interesting thing I learned at DevCon a few years ago, that Chris Irvine and I were talking to Clay, and Chris was seeing something interesting with regards to global containers. I think he was using Wireshark. And so globals, normally you think globals are just local to your machine in memory. However, that's true for all globals except containers. Containers will send data to the server. And it's like a big revelation to me, because it's like, what? No way. I didn't realize that. So
yeah, it's not a good thing.
Kind of work. Not a good thing if you're
I'm
thinking
actually really
like,
glad
hey,
you brought that up too, Vince, because that's definitely an issue.
Yeah.
I think let's go ahead and vote on this one and move on to the next one. That was some interesting stuff. Definitely a lot of things came up that didn't come up yesterday about that particular topic. I love that. Ooh, it's close too.
Was it mentioned that global fields can be addressed with security? I didn't. I think I heard that. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff Huff mentioned that that global fields can are part of the security layer, and you can once the user sets it, and once you set it as a developer, you can prevent a user from changing it. Global variables don't have that feature. There is a theoretical way you can hack them. If a user has access to a let function somewhere, like in the database, or obviously if they have full access. But even if they don't have full access, there's theoretical ways where an expert FileMaker developer could figure out a way. Look at you looking up the votes there, Eric.
Well, another good point that someone just put in the chat was global fields can have a default value when set before hosting it.
Oh, that's true. So when you open up the database, they can actually have a value without having anything being set. Yeah.
Good point.
Which actually is usually a downside, because usually you bring the file down to local, you run a startup script, and all your globals get a value set, and then you forget to delete them, and then you host the file, and all your globals have a value now. So everyone logs into the database as you. But that doesn't happen to me before.
I actually used that setup and basically just have a global table and set a field as a default field, and then some of those fields don't change at all. Just there's more of a maybe it's a bad design, but it's a relation setup.
Yeah, so you kind of use them as
linking it to a certain thing. Yeah,
as like what's the word I'm looking for? Like to
create some sort of relationship, or pull up a drop down field or whatnot. That's how I use it. So
as global fields, but you don't have them fixed values. You have them be modifiable values in the global fields.
Eventually, in some sort of scripting, I would change some of those variables so I can create some of those relationships that I'm trying to pull up. So I normally try to use global fields. I use both, but global fields for establishing some sort of relationship where I'm trying to pull up data. Again, probably a bad design, but seems to work on my end.
We're going to go on to our next topic, portals versus list view. This is another one of those ones, it depends. But this is for a general layout. When you have list data to show, which is the better, more flexible widget? Portals with their features and limitations, or list view with their features and limitations? Who wants to take each side on this one before I start assigning names? No takers?
I'll take a little bit of the list view side.
Dive in.
Okay.
And then people will think about who wants to take portals, and then they'll take it.
All right. Well, just one thing I discovered today. I was actually trying to do this in this app that we're using today. So you can't list portals in a portal. You can't even put them in a popover. You can do that in a list view. So that's a big thing for me right there. There's a lot of scripting steps that are a whole lot easier in list view. I can't go through them all right now, but I mean, that's my take so far.
Well, sorting is a huge issue for list view.
Yeah.
And showing the current record, resizing the performance, I think, is considerably better on FileMaker Go. Plus, the scrolling is much easier on FileMaker Go and list view than in a portal. Portals are really strange. You can never tap on the elevator to go up and down and scroll through records.
But I noticed in this app that you developed here, that you started this one, you just went all the way portals.
Which is funny, because I'm like generally not a portal guy. But on this particular case, I think I did a portal on this app because the questions were going to fit on one screen, and I wanted to show two different sets of data next to each other. And that's a pretty huge gain for a portal right there. You can't have two list views next to each other.
Eric, I had that yesterday. I had an existing interface where I had a card that showed a portal, and now we're going to have related records of related records. And yeah, you can't put a portal in a popover that's on a portal already. So I refashioned that layout, or that tab control, to its own layout that was list mode. So then I could have a popover with a portal on it of third grandchild records, and the functionality that you can create in a list view matches portals. I don't know if there's anything within a portal that you can do you can't do in a list view. That's probably a good question to ask. What can you do in a portal you can't do in a list view?
Well, Darren, you're going to have to figure this out because you're the first person to speak. So
I've just taken portals, have I?
You have just taken portals, yes.
I've just taken portals.
No, but
We'll all help you.
Against portals. So yeah, I mean, wait, just to cover what he talked, you know, this thing that I'm clicking on here, I'm clicking on the score. I wanted that to be a popover and just inside of a portal show, you know, who scored for what. But because it was already in a portal, I couldn't do that, so I had to do a card and bring up a whole nother list. So.
Mm-hmm. Portals have one other killer feature: filtering.
Exactly. Without a script.
I mean, you could do it certainly in list view, but you have to do the four most powerful script steps in all of FileMaker, which are enter
Go to layout.
Go to layout.
Set something
field,
or
perform
other.
fine.
Set something or other.
And I love it, and all the things you guys are saying too are also
Perform fine,
the
it's
most
something else.
powerful.
And perform something or other.
But yeah,
Matt, you can do a find in a single script step.
No, you can't. It's not a supported feature.
So just want to chime in on portals.
You got my number though.
I think
help me with the portals.
Yeah, portals are great. You can put stuff like on your left hand side of a portal, you know, and it's going to do fine. You know, if you need something to show when you're in list view in your margin, no can do, you know. So portals will also let you do master detail very well, especially since it was introduced. You could kind of hack it before, but now that there's native support for master detail, that's even better. And I think Portal will let you enforce a session model if you want to do that. Trying to enforce a session model in a list view is next to impossible, I would guess. So I think those are the points I would bring to the table for portals.
I see another point for list view is that if you have an enormous found set, you might have some performance issues in a portal, especially if you're doing it in WebDirect. So if you've got hundreds or thousands of records in a list view, it's going to render quicker than a portal, especially depending on the complexity of your relationship.
Okay, in support of portals.
If you have hundreds of thousands of records in a list view versus hundreds of thousands of records in a portal?
Hundreds or thousands, I said, but okay.
That you think the portal is faster?
Slower. No. The list view absolutely is faster.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, good.
It shows fewer records.
I just wanted to make sure I heard you right. I definitely heard you incorrectly.
Portals will have problems, and especially when you're using WebDirect, you're going to have a rendering issue.
Oh, and portals can also let you do pagination. Trying to do pagination in list view is kind of hard.
Oh, that's a really good point.
What about transactions without portals?
Transactions we can't bring up until the next topic.
I'm going to throw out there an argument for portals. One of the things
I'll
that
just
I
take
do,
this hand and put it behind my back.
I don't move context on a lot of my stuff. Everything that I learned with go to a record, find the record you want, process those records, and then go back to your original layout. I almost never do that now. I can put a portal off to the side, and that portal can still be accessed. It can be filtered, and then I can process on that. So I can run a loop on that portal, process my data, do whatever I want. And when I use a global field in order to filter, I can filter based on multiple criteria.
You're young, though. You'll learn when you get older, Matt.
And I never leave context. My UI never changes.
That is so. I love when you and I disagree on something because I always learn. So did you just say that you can have a portal that's actually off screen that will function in the script that way?
Yes.
What?
An off-screen portal, you can loop it, you can filter it, and then you can loop the results of that filter on the portal.
Who else did not know that? Okay, I'm the only one.
The trade-off is that the trade-off on that though is that you have to realize that everything off screen is still being loaded as well. So
True.
you
Behind the scenes, if the relationship calls for like 10,000 records, you got 10,000 records, even if you only need to process 5 of those. Yes, that's correct.
And you're
Even if
relying
it's
on
in a popover?
What's that?
I said it's loading even if it's in a popover?
Oh, now that's a test. Filter your portal before you go into the popover. See if you can do it off screen and Wireshark that.
Can you make a popover appear and disappear off screen?
No, but if you wrap that portal into a popover, you can still access the portal via the go to portal and
you
go
could
to
shove
object.
the portal off screen of the popover, but the popover still comes on screen.
Oh, you can do that. Yeah.
Somebody's got to test that.
But with all of that, you're still relying on layout objects for business logic.
We have reached the point in the conversation where if anybody is not a FileMaker nerd listening to this, they have no idea what we're talking about. Like this,
because they haven't watched Matt Petrowski's videos is why they don't know.
So to get the
Exactly.
portal
I
open
have
for-
watched all his videos,
All the
so
wacky
that's why
stuff.
I can bring that in. Yeah,
I wish I could say that. I've taken a subscription for years, and every time I go in there, it's like, holy cow, I didn't know that.
I clearly haven't watched them all because I just learned something.
To get your popover to open on the thing from an off-screen object, the object's got to have at least 1 pixel within the context of the layout.
So FileMaker had a wall of patents at the wedge, and one of them was for the portal. And so I'm kind of curious if anybody's ever seen a similar analog in other database systems.
I don't know. Someone else must have the pattern on the horizontal portal.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the portal is fairly common in a lot of other things.
Great.
It's just a show of related data in a little widget. That's not.
Power Apps has something similar in the Power Apps.
Yeah, I think Apple's got a patent for a mouse on the wall there too somewhere as well, but that's a much older conversation.
And we're gonna patent a box that shows things.
Yeah.
Let's vote on this one and move on because the next one is exciting and might take a little longer. Have I voted? And actually what I love is you don't have to remember whether you voted or not because you can't vote twice. So you can just change your score if you try to vote again.
I have one more thing about portals, if you want to hear.
Yes, please.
Okay, if you loop through the portal in a script and the script runs full access, you get a new instance of the portal. So you might see the portal with the current user login, what he can see, the privilege set. But it's very dangerous also, because when you loop over the portal and set the script to full access, you got to enter a new instance. So you can do a lot of other things with records not visible to the current user, but they might be relevant in changing whatever you want to change.
Oh, I totally get that. That's an interesting point.
What do you mean by another user, another instance?
You run with elevated privileges.
Right.
Where records that were not formally accessible become accessible. I think
accessible.
That's what he's saying.
Visible
Yes,
and
you get an
editable.
instance. Yeah.
In script. Interesting.
It's a way to give privileged escalation.
That's a two-edged sword, big time, I think is what you're saying.
Oh,
So
so
in
you're
a
saying
listen, you can do that.
So if you're using security to limit access to certain records, then you skip. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I would say that might be an argument in favor of list view because you know exactly what records you're looking at, and changing the script's access to get full access will not change your set of records you're working on, but it will change what you can do with them. But the whole point of having the script run with full access privileges is so that you can do things with it that you otherwise couldn't.
Yeah, that's what I meant with dangerous, because you know the speed. If you think you gain speed with running that script in full access, because then it's faster normally if you go. It doesn't have to evaluate security settings, but in that case, it it gives you a new instance of the portal. It's very tricky, but it could help to do some other stuff if needed. Just be aware. That's one point.
We're going to move on to the next one, which is transactions versus the easy way. Enzo Manano is going to take on transactions, and Steve Romeg, with the help of all the rest of us, is going to take on the easy way. None of us knows what the easy way is, so Vince is going to go ahead and introduce this topic. Enzo.
So first off, yesterday when we presented this, or the day before, we yesterday, right? Portland was yesterday
in the morning.
Yeah.
Time
so
flies.
Feels like a long time ago.
I'm gonna go check if Oliver's outside.
Okay. So so yesterday we were told that we had to define the topic. So so basically what doing it the transaction method is meaning that you can create data in different tables and create, update, or delete data in different tables, and then have a way to act it atomically, meaning that it all gets put in or it all doesn't get put in. It all gets committed or not. So you have a way to revert it. And one of the, I look at it in kind of in two ways. Transactions to me are like sync. Sync can be relatively fairly easy if it's one way, but bidirectional sync is always a level of complexity that can be daunting. And so transactions are, for me, very easy from the point of view of simply putting in data or modifying data or deleting data. It's very easy to do. And once you get the hang of it, it's very easy. But the other side of transactions, the real benefit of using transactions is to take advantage of the fact that you can, at the time that you're storing the data or updating the data, you can move off of unstored calcs to stored calcs, stored values. And what that gives you in terms of performance is dramatic, especially on WAN-based solutions. And I can show you a small demo of something here. Hold on, let me get my bearings here. And this is just to kind of show the mechanics of transactions, if you wish. So if you see my screen, I should have like a QuickTime movie here.
Yep, we can.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah, CinemaScope.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I know CinemaScope. Is that better, like this?
Oh, better, yeah.
Okay. So basically, the structure of this is very simple. We have three tables. We have a transaction table, a parent, and a child. And then in the transaction table, we just have an ID. And for simplicity purposes, it's a number key, but normally it's a text field, and we use UUIDs and all that. But so that's the transaction table. And if we look at the relationship between transaction and these two tables, basically it's bound by the key on the transaction side and the key on the primary key in each of the tables. So there's that relationship, and not checked off down at the bottom here, but you would normally, if you wanted to create related data via transaction, you'd have the first option checked, which is allow creation of records in this table via this relationship. But I don't have a check for this demo. Okay.
Vince, before you go any further, what's up with that graphic up there?
That's my favorite thing to do these days. Stick emojis everywhere. And so you can put emojis, and so that's just a text note. And then the other thing is just an emoji in a text object that you put in FileMaker.
Very nice.
And,
thank you. I like that.
And you can put in a line as well. So those are three text objects. So if I run the script in debug mode here and I delete, so the first thing to note is that this script, apart from the fact that it makes sure that I'm in the right window, because I'm showing all the windows here with with all the data so you can see it. So basically I have 2 records in the parent table and I have a set of related data for each of the records. So I think I broke the parent table because it's supposed to show the list of colors for each person, but that's a separate topic. So anyway, the first thing that we do in the transaction script is that we would create a record. So once we create the record, and the key is not to commit that record. That's the important piece. So to create the record, then what we do is, being lazy here, I just didn't write a loop to process the stack of keys, but you could be very efficient and put a stack of keys that you want to modify. You could build a JSON, parameter method, but basically you feed in the key that you want to work with. You touch the object that you want to get into, the portal that you want to get into by object name. So I'm going to go to that key, which is that portal in there, and I'm going to delete that portal row. And so you'll see records disappear in the window on the right. So records are being taken away for the first parent, and then we delete the actual parent record, which is the middle window. So that gets taken away. So we go to different portal. We delete that portal row, and that record is gone. So that's going to be 2 records. We're going to have 1 record there. Now we're going to loop over the keys for the other child records. And so we got rid of all the child records. And now we're going to get rid of the last parent record. Okay, so now that's going to be gone. And then the last thing before we revert, like it's in a state in memory right now where you've actually approached the black hole. You're at the event horizon. You're about to be sucked into the black hole. And, thanks to the good graces of Star Trek, you get pulled out just in time so that you save your crew and everybody is back to life here.
Well, fucking nine.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and that's the essence. That's the essence of transactions right there. So if you get that, you basically can build your transactions tonight.
Okay, so Steve Romig, in 15 words or less, rebut that.
That
I
would
forgot.
be unbalanced.
I forgot I was having a speaking part here. So
It's pretty easy. Nobody in this room is as smart as Vince Manano. Done.
Oh, perfect. And I would just reiterate that anything that is the easy way sounds good to me. Whatever that turns out to be.
One that from me again? I didn't hear that.
I said whatever turns out to be the easy way sounds good to me. In life and in FileMaker.
So Vince, that was super sexy because it showed, like, we're not used to as FileMaker developers seeing delete portal row, delete record, and then have it be undoable if there's some error that's experienced at the end of the script. And that's exactly what you just showed. I think the issue here is, and I think what this topic is about is that worth it? Is it worth having the extra script and like thinking about stuff in a way to make it really properly done? Because I think that what you just showed is the proper way to do it. It's the only way you would ever be able to get away with writing a database for like a bank, or something where it absolutely mattered that the whole record was committed or reverted at once in a group together. But a lot of our projects are just not that big. They're just not that important.
Let me phrase that for you. But the crap we're building doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I have a public health database that tracks the lives and health of Oregonians.
Sorry,
Let me ask you, Matt, do people access that system over a WAN?
No. Well,
No?
it's Citrix based. So they connect to a Citrix session, and if they get disconnected, it just disconnects the Citrix session, and it doesn't disconnect. It's very, very rare that there's an issue. I'd put it this way. The problem that you're really solving at the root and the whole thing, the only argument that I have ever had against transactions is that it solves a problem that's not that big of a problem. What? So the percentage of records that fail to get committed, deleted, updated is 0.001% in all databases that I work with. And so 0.001% is a completely showstopper for a bank.
I disagree, Matt. A couple things here is
yeah.
it's not just that you can get back on track if something fails. Is that if something fails, everything else you get to roll back. So you're never in like mid state saying, oh well, I got up to there, all of that committed, you know, but now that I get here, I attempted and wait a minute, there's a record lock, or I don't have the user doesn't have the right privileges, and then is it possible to figure out how to like roll back, quote unquote, roll back what you actually committed? That's going to be extra hard. Whereas when you get all that in the one revert record, it saves the day, you know. So it's true. It's as if we are asking ourselves, when is it that data consistency does not matter? And to me, the answer is it matters all the time, regardless of if you're a bank or a mom and pop shop. It's just you need your data to be accurate.
Yeah, not all the time, because I mean, I spent some of today working on a database for a museum that's one table with images, and there are no related records, so there isn't any.
Right. I mean, it's
that one record, but
it's a flat table, and flat tables, FileMaker delivers data from flat tables. Like it's basically, it boils down to requests or calls as they go. Right. So I make a call, give me this data, and you get the data back. The problem with FileMaker is that when you're dealing with related data, okay, and so I have a demo here to amplify the problem, which is the problem is it isn't so much about the related data, but it amplifies the problem even more if you have summary fields at the top of this list. So I have 1,056 records. I'm only going to see like 50 or 100 rows of data. But the fact that I have the summary fields, FileMaker's needing to pull all 1,056 records, plus the problem is amplified by the fact that all those records that I'm seeing have unstored calcs, and those unstored calcs are feeding the summary fields. So
yeah,
like,
so this is part two, right? Of your
Yeah, no, this is part two that I'm going to be presenting. But the point I'm making is that it's great audience to be talking about this here, because I don't know how many of you on the call like are in situations where you're brought in because someone built something and they say that FileMaker's crap, and you just look at it and say, oh my God, I would never build something like this, like especially from a performance perspective. Like if you do make the effort, you can build stuff that is extremely fast, robust, efficient, and reliable. So,
I made the slide that you're talking about here. I used an example, which I'm going to throw out right now. Imagine a database that has an invoice table and an invoice line item table, and an unstored calculation field that adds up the total of all the line items for the invoices.
Right.
And imagine another calculated field in the customer table that adds up the total of all the invoices, which adds up the total of all the line items. And now imagine a list view of 10,000 customers with that field on it. And if you're cringing, then you're imagining correctly, because that will break FileMaker, especially across a WAN.
Why would you even consider doing that?
It's the easy way.
Because
that's
it's super easy.
It's what
built into FileMaker.
Yeah. So what happens is, Jonathan, people get into FileMaker, they think it's so cool, and they just build it, and it's local, and it runs really well.
5 records, it's going to be perfect.
Yeah. And then like whatever, they'll put in 100 records. Then what happens is they'll get more people convinced to use it, and then they'll host it, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, this thing is really slow.
But you don't need transactions to fix that, though.
Well, this is sort of part B. So part B of his thing is sort of transactional, but there's this other topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask another
I'll let you
question?
argue this.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
As another analogy, when would you allow a a script error to show the alert to a user. Now, in Vince's model here, he's stepping through the script, and if there's a error or a fault, he'll back out of the data changes, and therefore his script is controlling that. In what context would you run a script where you would allow the system to show a dialogue to say that it was an error, and then give the user the choice to continue or to stop or okay? You're in a situation where you want the script to finish, and if it doesn't, you want to back out. And transactional gives us that. Sorry, you're muted, Matt.
All I said was, yes, you're right, it does.
Transaction, and it's the same thing. I do not know a context where you say, oh, I want the user to see the FileMaker error, and I want the user to make the decision on whether or not it continues on through this script. Particularly if you're using the easy way and you've actually lost the context of your current record and you've taken them to another layout on a utility layout for setting records, and you get a record lock and it fails, and then the user says, okay, I'll stop here. It doesn't make sense. So the idea that you're creating the records and you have rollback is what transaction's all about.
Mm-hmm. So you don't get part of the records deleted, and then do or don't show an error to the user. Instead, you get nothing deleted and an error shown to the user saying, "Hey, Mary Jones has locked this record. She's editing that invoice right now. You can't delete it until she's done. Send a nastygram to Mary Jones."
But Matt, I agree with your original take, though, in that this is a small, this really matters in sync where you want to send over a complete transaction. This really matters in deletion where you have cascades involved. But 99.9% of the activities done in the FileMaker database, make a new order, make a quote, something like that. It is perfectly fine to have a half-done record and you'll get back to it later. And so those are the majority of the use cases for pretty much all the systems we build. Is everything is kind of a work in progress and doesn't need to be all the way completed or else roll it back. There's a very specific set of use cases where that's absolutely a requirement, like sync. And so for these non-atomic transactions, I agree that, this is very cool. It's fantastic that you can do rollbacks. I've long wanted FileMaker to be able to do rollbacks, and this does it. But I don't think it applies for most of the stuff we do.
Well,
I think that's the debate, because I think Vince is saying, and others are saying, it absolutely does apply for most of the stuff that we do.
I'm not saying that everyone cares about it, but I'm saying that it's game changer type of thing.
Yeah.
And the same way that we're like, okay, it's as if we were to say, okay, Chris, you say it's okay for the record to be in a halfway state. So would you just then go into all your tables and remove all the field validations, because later on you get to fix it. No,
oh my
you
God,
want
yes,
the validations.
absolutely.
You want
don't use field validation under any circumstances. It's completely broke. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but that's not an atomic transaction. If I'm trying to create an order,
I
and
understand.
I order 1 million
I understand.
widgets, I only have 100. So what? I have a bad state for a single line item, but the rest of the transaction is, valid, and I don't want to smoke it.
Yeah.
Well,
Chris,
maybe you do want to smoke it, because, like, if you have, say, an import, and then you're importing 1,000 records, okay, and all that at the end of the import is that 3 records failed, but there's no way for you to know which ones, and then so you have to go back to the original document that you were importing and quite literally figure out which, because you can't just re-import, there's some stuff that you've already imported. So basically, I'd love for the import to support baked in transactions, but it does not.
No, I'm not saying it never applies. I'm just saying it usually doesn't apply. It's usually not critical to have something be fully baked. A lot of things, if you enter a contact record and you don't know their phone number right away or don't know their email right away, so what? Still have the contact in there.
Oh yeah,
completely
that's fine. I mean, it's business
dependent.
logic. It's business logic, right? It's like workflow. Like, okay, yeah, this can be filled in later. But if you've got a requirement where that value needs to be there before you commit the record. That's kind of like, validation. But
Yeah,
you
no
can think of
argument.
it, yeah, you can think about it also in terms of that, in terms of the related data. So if the data, parent data and the child data needs to be together, and then that's a requirement. So it's all business logic, right? So we're not going to argue that point.
So Steve Romig, I've given you plenty of time to rebut. Let's hear your thoughts.
I have one more thing about that, if you don't mind.
No, I need to hear from Steve first.
Well, wait. Now, Vince, where are we going to hear about more of this anyway?
Well, I presented at DIGFM 3 months ago.
Oh, okay.
I'm presenting again part 2 next month here and to the wider group if we merge groups or whatever. So that's coming up, and the FM Disc group has invited me to speak tomorrow on my part 2 of my transaction. So I'll be speaking tomorrow at 10 a.m. in LA.
Southern California one? Okay.
Southern California.
Who was that
yeah.
who spoke up? Who had another point? Was that Uli? Was that
Yeah,
you?
Uli.
I think the index is part of the speed improvement with transactions. And if you need the index being present, for example, if someone enters in a portal, like for invoice line items, he orders chocolate 75% cocoa. The next line he wants to autocomplete and 75.5. So if the record has not been committed and that record has never been present in the database, he doesn't get autocomplete. So that would be a point on the other side.
Boo.
All right.
Uli.
On the other
Yeah.
hand, Vince, the index for
Don't know,
you,
Vince.
the index is expensive. So when you have everything uncommitted and commit at once, then it's much faster to go to do the index of all not yet committed records. So you gain speed by having a portal only committing at the end of line item entry. If you commit in between, then you lose speed because it will create the index for each line item.
Yeah, not only
So we
create
have-
the index, but you have the
So
back
the-
and forth communication to the server.
Exactly. So my point is here, the index works on both sides of comparison here.
I kind of knew this topic was going to take a while because we got into it, I think, even much more deeply than yesterday. And I still haven't heard Steve's rebuttal. Come on, Steve. You got this.
I'm sticking to my guns that I always go the easy way in life and in FileMaker, and that what did you say, Matt? Vince is the smartest guy on this call. So,
Yeah, but
how can
Chris
argue
Moore and I
against him?
believe that he's wrong about it, though. So I mean, that has to count for something. Are we Chris? Are you and I together as smart as half of Vince, or what's the deal?
I think that's what it would take. I do want to make one more point, an additional use case, and that was just sort of a reminder that the reason the ARPANET was originally constructed the way it was is they needed to have something that worked if one of those nodes got taken out by a nuclear bomb. So if they had half a transaction go through, at least some data got through, and you didn't have radio silence and it didn't roll back. You at least knew something about what was going on before it got obliterated from Earth. So there's something to be said for that sort of use case where catastrophic failure is a possibility and you at least want to have some clue as to what happened. And I can imagine this being true on like a space mission before something tumbles into the sun. It'd be nice to know what it was thinking right before it went dark.
You know, while you bring that up, the other half of
Great
TCP/IP,
argument, Chris. I love it.
the TCP/IP protocol, which was also around the same time, was specifically built for transaction and acknowledgement, which is atomic. That is transactional. So the whole ARPANET thing with, at the same time they were developing that level of redundancy, so a link could disappear. They were also developing the whole transactional model. So we're both wrong.
Right, but that's on a like you said, an atomic level. I mean, it's on a payload level. I mean, it's not the entire message. It's each packet is checked. The entire message is not checked.
So I can tell you this
acknowledgement.
because the topic goes a lot deeper than what we're talking about here, because you know, FileMaker out of the box, the simplicity of FileMaker and the fact that it locks the record, no one else can edit it, and you make the change and you commit it, and you know that your change is in there. And if you look at some unstored calc, it's really true that that's the value, all that stuff, right? That's really great. When we were architecting our transaction stuff, we had to really think and test all kinds of possible race conditions, right? You can imagine server's really busy and server's doing something. If you don't get your updates of records that got updated by some import because server's been busy digesting that data, you're looking at data that might be stale, and your transaction that you're about to put in is inaccurate. So like I said, it's a complex topic when you it's easy to really complex to get it right. And so, so especially the data integrity part is really hard to do, not easy.
So Matt, I just want to point out that you gave Vince a lot more time than you gave me. Just wanted to mention that.
Vince more than you, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I gave Vince more time. I was really giving Steve more time.
Oh, I see. But Vince took it from Steve.
And in your case, I'm the host. I really can do whatever the hell I want. So, and I kind of have to go. So I think there's a couple other topics I kind of wanted to get to. Well, let's vote on this one because I think we've got a really, really good amount of information. And let's pick one other one to blast through in 5 minutes so that we can have a little bit of a, sorbet after our main course. I'll say this. Yesterday, when we talked this through, I changed my mind, and I changed my mind to transactions are the proper way to do it. And if I had time to do it in every database that I would write, and if there was an easier way than there is now to do it, I would use it in all cases because it is the proper way. And for those percent, whatever the percentage of records that go wrong, for me, for my databases, for my practice, that's what I would do. I also would have to say tomorrow for direct impact, I'm starting a beginner training class. I teach beginner, intermediate, and advanced training. And I don't think transactions, I think that's too advanced even for the advanced class. So maybe Vince can give me something that would make it easier to teach that for the advanced class, but it's definitely not an intermediate FileMaker topic. It's something that an ordinary FileMaker developer needs some additional help to really understand why they need to do it and how to do it. And to be able to do it successfully, because one line of code that's wrong in that transactional process and stuff's going to break. So what do we want to hit next? Scripted deletes, UUID, pick between those because we're not going to do execute SQL just because
I vote deletes.
Delete?
Deletes, I vote.
Sounds good to me.
Any other votes?
Well, I just did scripted deletes. My transaction demo was scripted deletes.
Yeah, that's true. Except as a general topic, scripted deletes versus cascading deletes in the relationship graph. I think that's what we're talking about on this.
Yeah, let's just make the argument for the cascading deletes then.
All right, let's do that.
Perfect.
You spoke, say it.
Don't do it.
There is one thing you can use cascading delete for that nothing else will let you achieve in FileMaker, and it's if you set up a cascading delete on a failing relationship, the cascading delete failing will prevent the full access user from deleting records in the left-hand side table of the relationship.
Run that by me again. Failing relationship?
Yes. So for instance, if you set up a relationship, you set up the cascading delete, and then after the fact, you go into your right-hand side table and you delete the field that the relationship is targeting.
Oh, I see.
FileMaker is going to say, hey, I have a cascading delete to honor here, but I'm unable to honor it. And because of that, I'm going to prevent everyone, even full access users, from deleting records in that table.
I would file that very
if you have a
squarely
relationship if you have a relationship to a foreign file and that file is sitting on someone's desktop and then you host everything, but you forgot the file, you'll get the same effect there as if you have a missing related file, then you can't delete.
Robert, I love that, but that's so completely a hack. And FileMaker could change the behavior on that with any version when they realize that they made an error.
So
and then, but that's really
I don't
interesting.
think that's an error, Matt. I don't
You can
think
do
that-
it cleaner.
I think that's on purpose.
It's not an error. I agree with Robert.
You can do it cleaner, I think. If
how
you
can you
have
do it
a,
cleaner?
just riffing off what Robert mentioned, is if you have two tables, one of which someone's got full access and a second table where they don't have full access, but you know, it's all valid. It's just they're not allowed to delete in the second table.
Here's why it's an error. Sorry, to go back. It's an error because FileMaker should not allow you to delete a field. And I guess I just realized there's another workaround for this if you have two files. If you're in a file and you delete a field that is part of a relationship, it shouldn't allow you to do that.
I
there's
don't
not a
care
good
that,
reason.
that it's the field and it should allow or not allow. I'm just saying that in whatever way you achieve for the relationship not to let you enforce the actual deletion, it's going to say, I'm asked to delete in both places. I cannot ensure this. Therefore, I'm not going to let you delete in the first place altogether.
I get that. I think the solution or the solution that you're creating is you're preventing a full access user from deleting a record in a table, which I didn't think was possible, and that's cool.
It is very cool.
I also hate it.
It's very cool, and I think Robert emailed me about it. We talked about it a while ago, and I think we came up with a way to do it so that it had no errors to it. I mean, it's like, you know,
yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Vince, I'm trying to remember when that happens. Does the error message tell you exactly what the problem is, or does it just say, like, is it some vague error message that says you can't do that because of something else failed?
Gotta be.
I feel like it's a kind of vague error message.
Robert, do you remember? I can't. I'm trying to find the file I put together.
It's like, I mean, it certainly doesn't tell you the name of the table occurrence in question, I don't think.
I think the message in itself is very vague, if not misleading.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got a few arguments in behalf of cascading deletes.
That's okay though, as long as it, you know, if you're preventing the deletion of records, that's what you're trying to solve. I have a hard stop coming up here in a minute.
What's your hard stop?
So I want to, and I can leave and you guys continue too, but it feel weird as the, you know, you can't have a game show without the.
Well, you're weird.
I think Jerry's going to pick over for you, Matt.
You could take over. I'll seed it to you. It's fine. And you can like set up a couple of things, and then you can put 400 points for yourself. Like
Yeah,
I did.
no, I don't. No, that's fine. I got other stuff to do too. So Matt leaves. That'll give me an excuse for leaving without offending anyone else.
So let me say thank you to everyone, especially Jerry, who totally put up with my abuse, and Matt Petrowski, and who else did I abuse? This has been so fun, and I really hope we can do more events like this one, where we can learn, keep it lighthearted, and dive into really interesting technical topics that are right at the heart of what we do as developers. That's just what I was aiming, and I feel really good about the result. And now we're seeing a sweet demo of something.
Yeah, no, I found the file that Robert and I kind of chatted about this a while ago. So here's the example. So I can add a record. Right, add. Right, so now let me
Not
run
that
it.
record.
Right, so I've added the record. If I delete the record, I'm in just to prove I'm in with full access, right? If I delete the record, I can't delete the record. One or both match fields are missing, invalid relationship. So anyway, just
Can you turn error capture off so we can see what message the user sees?
Sure. Hold on.
Well, you just hit Command E though. I mean, you just deleted it, right? You didn't run a script.
No, there's a 2-line script with error capture.
Oh yeah, which allowed you to see the error.
There's the error.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Somebody
pretty
read
bad.
that?
Yeah. Oh, and the problem is it doesn't tell you which table on the other side is the problem. That's what the trouble is. You could have 100 related tables, and you wouldn't know which one.
Yeah,
is the problem.
yeah, obviously,
That's it.
but
That's
But
it.
the cool thing is, if you think about it from a log perspective, you could build an immutable log,
Yep.
right? Even with full access. I mean, mind you, you'd have to go in and muck with the file and change it. And so if you really wanted to mess with it, but anyway, it's cool. I wish we
It's
had
cool. It's
immutable
for sure
table.
cool. You could do it accidentally or on purpose.
Multi-purpose.
And that's
Hey,
kind of an
it's
issue.
like-
but
No
I mean,
such
we're
thing
all
as a bug.
professionals.
This is
Like you
lot-
said, earlier, Matt, that never happened to me.
Yeah, well.
Can I say one more thing, Matt?
One more thing. Then I got to run.
Okay. Jonathan Fletcher, Kentuckiana FileMaker Developers Group. If anybody wants to an invite to our next meeting, if you're not on the list, Robert will be there. We have Hansa Kudelka and Bill Heiser on the same show bill.
Put the link down there in the chat.
Let's
yeah, put the link.
That's for the
So
June
I
meetup.
just put a link in the. It moved up a bit, but there's a link in the chat. Email me and I'll get you on our list. It's the fourth Tuesday of the month, so it's going to be the 25th this month, and we have Bill Heiser and Hansa Kudelka on the same bill. It's really going to be amazing.
Jonathan, I saw someone somewhere ask about the recording of your last one. which
Yeah, I
was-
got to get it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay,
it's-
just checking.
Yeah,
it's all
it's-
good. Thank you.
Man has to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. This was great.
Hey, Matt, send me a backup of the file. All right. Hey, look.
Have a great day, people.
Bye, everyone. Bye,
Thanks,
Steve.
Matt. This is
Bye,
fun.
See ya.